If it was that fucking easy, there'd be Starbucks. I would have done a joint venture with Schultz 20 years ago, and we'd have a QLA shop in every motherfucking Starbucks.
Dan screaming at you. Like
Yeah.
drinking your
And 90, and how many? There's 92,000 contracts.
Yeah.
Government contracts.
Open.
Now, I will bet all my net worth, every motherfucking penny I have, that ain't gonna happen. You know how many people have rolled up and opened up the government contract page? More hairs than I have on my head. From this group. So I gotta do what I gotta do. Fucking monkey. Israeli cunt. You know how many people in the how would I rate on the bottom of the reports? How many people? I don't even know the number. I don't even know the number. How was Steve last night?
Enthusiastic.
What else? The kids saw the movie or a speech by Steve Ballmer at Oxford last night. And so enthusiastic, no question about that. What else?
Optimistic. For me, more optimism was.
Okay, what else?
He actually didn't know a lot of technical shit.
Stop. He knows nothing. But you motherfuckers will Google fuck every... This fucking rum-dum. Why will you Google fuck everything? You don't go past page 2, though. You don't want to know all the facts. Like we've shared some of the facts here that you can look at, gee, I don't know that. Because you never go, nobody ever Googles anything past page 2. You go to page 18, 24, 36. That's the real shit. Why does he not need to know anything and you need to know everything? That's an exaggeration about the everything. And him knowing nothing is an exaggeration. But somewhere, why do you need so much information? And why are you going to take a 30-day project and make it into 12 months?
Procrastination.
Because you don't really, contrary to what you say. And he cuts to the chase. Okay, what else about Steve?
He was result-oriented, execution and measurement.
What gets measured gets accomplished. All these things that you... why does Dan have to tell us this 10 times? Because I know the first 9 times you didn't hear it. And you didn't hear it the 10th time anyway, but I get tired after saying 10 times, so I give up after 10 times. What else about Steve? Now, one thing I disagree, I would rather be a one-trick pony than a no-trick pony. So he spends, but they were concerned that these big organizations, and I understand why, they should be more than one-trick ponies. In other words, having more than one huge success.
He had an eye for talent.
How do you get to have an eye for talent? By making mistakes. And most kids, either watching on YouTube or they come through here, don't want to make that mistake, so they keep, procrastinating. What else? I mean, he's got a lot of energy. He jumps up and down. He's obviously an alpha male. He did a great job in those decades that he was at Microsoft. And, he created, a lot of wealth for himself and a lot of wealth for Microsoft. And he's at one end of the leadership continuum. And but he's in a minority. I mean, there's only 1 or 2% of the CEOs of the big companies that you read about all the time that are at the alpha end of the continuum. And I told you 98% of all the other high performance founders, managers are not alpha guys or gals. They're, introverts, low key. They're still assassins, in their action, but they're certainly not verbose, etc., like myself or President Trump. A good contrast is Mr. Gates and Steve. Perhaps that's why they made such a good team. And what else about Steve?
He asked a lot of questions.
Pardon?
He asked a lot of questions, stuff he didn't know.
Yeah. You were going to say?
He said his biggest problem was not moving the company forward with new projects, but just people.
It's always people. I said, you buy your first company, but then you got to manage it. And managing it is hard. Not just because you don't have the requisite experience. Even if you had the requisite experience, it's hard. Because people will surprise you both ways. They'll be so outstanding that you can't believe it, and they'll be not worth a shit that you can't believe it. And quite often in the beginning, you'll think the people that are going to be outstanding aren't worth a shit. Because, there's more to resumes in a person's character. I don't know if it's changed now, but Google has 10 or 12 or 14% step hiring process. And, in addition to testing, et cetera, and they do that because they're trying to narrow the gap between what reality is and what they think reality should be. And that's why when I tell you that the success test has a 95% accuracy rate, 16 fucking questions. 16, and it really has more than 95. But if I say more than 95, I get sued. So I say 95. 95%, 16 bloody questions. We had one person in this group that got a perfect score, only one. Up until about 10 years ago, there were less than 10 perfect scores in the history of this test. Up until about 8 or 10 years ago. But now, the test has been out there a long, long time. We have some people, now get this, YouTube, and he's probably watching. I don't know if it's a he or she. We have some people that take that test 100 times a month. We have some people that take it 200 times a month. Now, if you're getting a perfect score, you wouldn't take it 200 times, would you? And if you can't get a perfect score after 200 times, because in their DNA, they're encoding some of those questions, even though they know the right answer, they can't do it. They can't do it. One of the questions from YouTube, no death threats. One of the questions from YouTube was, and I was screaming at somebody, I guess, during some of our filming in the last couple of days. Not everybody that comes through here, not everybody that uses QLA successfully rolls up companies. Maybe 60, 70% roll up companies, or attempt to roll up companies. And 20 or 30% use the QLA principles with their existing business Maybe 5 or 10% use QLA in their general lifestyle in raising kids. I think I told you we had a guy who made 10 million euros here recently, who didn't do the roll-up. He had an existing business, and he devoted a couple years to changing the business in line, not 100% in line, but more in line with the QLA methodology, i.e. being all you can be, expecting more from his employees, raising the benchmark, et cetera, and he made 10 million euros when he sold, and the company wasn't worth a fraction of that before. So not everybody does the roll-up. But those people that don't do the roll-up normally aren't creating generational wealth. They may take their business, and I skipped the slides. It was a guy went from $77,000 a month to $487,000 a month. Another guy went from $1.2 million to $2 million a month. But see, even though those numbers sound all right, they're not worth a shit in the big cosmos of time if you want to build generational wealth. They're acceptable by almost anybody's standards, but they're not what I'm about. So, I mean, QLA, that isn't 100% rolling up businesses. Of course, that's what Andrew Carnegie used it for, and a bunch of other people, since he more or less invented the model. But it's, you know, it's a way of life. It just is. It's why my kids are the way they are, because, as Derek used to say, I've been listening to this 5 credo crap since I was in my mommy's tummy. And if you listen to it all your life, since you're in the second trimester of your mother's stomach, it's got to resonate, whether you like it or not, just as you're proof of the opposite of that resonated with you, whether you like it or not. Now just think, if they had beaten you, not, well, in my case, physically beat, but I mean, if they had beaten this shit into you since you're, you know, an infant, how much different you'd think, you know, how much different you would have acted, you know, where you'd be now as opposed to where you are now. I mean, there's no comparison. Remember the Chinese lady that beat her 2 daughters, the tiger woman, whatever they called her, and the kids complained like hell. But now the kids, one's a Harvard medical student, which, you know, maybe Doc can relate to better than I can, I'm sure. And I forget what the other one does. She's, you know, she's on Wall Street. But now they didn't say it then, because they interviewed the kids in junior high school and high school, and they interviewed them now. Oh, our mother was ahead of her time. Ahead of her time. And but at the time, the kids hated it, just as you would have hated it, just as I hated it. But as my dad would say, God rest his soul, how are your dipshit kids doing? You know, one's a crack whore and the other one's a this and that. How are they doing? How's your program working out? And i.e., how did your program work out for your parents? And that's why I asked that question, are your parents proud of you? And not all of you, but almost all of you lied and said yes. Did you ever ask them? Ask them. If you could raise me over again, would you have done it different? Ask them. YouTubers, you ask them. Yeah. Steve's a great CEO. He's a great charismatic leader. And but there's only a few of them like that. All the rest are the more like diplomats. Anything else about Steve? Now, we're going to do your goals. We're not going to do them on YouTube. And we're going to do your affirmations. We're not going to do them on YouTube. And this morning, in a few minutes, we're going to be talking to Josh, the Phenom, live. As I commented last night when one of you asked me, why doesn't anybody use the government contracts, right? And I thought Jan got it, but he didn't. He was standing there, and I said, a guy stood right there and asked me the same fucking question. It was him. In August of 2015, he asked me that fucking question. Now, he doesn't remember. He's got the fog of war, because I brought it up to him last night at dinner. I've been asked that question a million is exaggeration, but at least 1,000 times. And now, of course, 92,000 contracts, right? Back in the old days, there was only 4,000 or 5,000 contracts. And back in the old days, they weren't online like they are now. But it is like taking candy from a baby. And I told you about the Indian Sikh who came to the Ritz in London about a year and a half ago. And he said, I want to thank you, I want to thank you, I want to thank you. And he showed me, can I show you on my laptop? That's my contract. That's my contract. I said, you actually did it. He said, yeah, it's easy peasy. I said, fuck. He actually did it. Why'd you do it? Well, you said it on the YouTube. I just wanted to thank you. Okay, YouTubers, we'll talk to you later. Thank you.